This afternoon, I've informed my caucus, my cabinet, and my party that I have personally paid for the costs associated with the recent South Africa trip. I want to sincerely apologize to Albertans for these costs, and I put in place measures to make sure that this never happens again.
Tonight's top story, trouble for Premier Alison Redford in Alberta. She's facing a caucus revolt over her expenses. Her trip to South Africa, $15,000 for a government plane to Ottawa, $10,000 for an early trip back to Canada, $20,000 for her AIDS round trip. Total cost $45,000. She's lost one MLA. She could lose more. Danielle Smith is the leader of the Wild Rose and the official opposition. She joins us from the rotunda of the legislature. Ms. Smith, you've been keeping pressure on Premier Redford for weeks now. Is this enough, paying back the money?
People are furious. I think this is the reason why she did it. Everywhere she would have gone, everywhere her backbench and ministerial MLAs would have gone, they would have been hearing loud and clear from Albertans how disappointed they were with this cost. So she did the right thing. The question is, will it be enough? I'm not sure. Over the last couple of weeks, we found that there have been other abuses of the government planes. She's using them for holidays. She's using them to take family members and their friends of family members. She's using them to go to PC party fundraisers. I think that what we have is a pattern of behavior with this premier. The reason why this one exploded is because it was just so extreme, but I don't think she's out of the water yet. I think Albertans are still very, very angry.
She said she wanted to put checks and balances in there to make sure this never happened again. I would assume that there were checks and balances in place that should have caught this from happening and that someone had to override it. Am I foolish to think that those don't exist?
Well, there are checks and balances, but they don't appear to apply to the Premier's office. They have a very clear travel policy. They were touting it last year. You're only supposed to travel economy. You're only supposed to be able to get approval to travel business class if you're over 4 hours. And if you take a flight that is in excess of that, you're supposed to pay for it personally. Unfortunately, none of these rules seem to apply to the Premier. We haven't gotten a straight answer about who signs off on her expenses. When this first came out, she blamed junior staff. She appears to be taking responsibility now, but I guess we're going to have to wait and see whether or not she's actually changed her practices, because there are other examples of her flying at very high cost when there are other more affordable alternatives available, and she's certainly not paying those dollars back.
All right, I want to ask you about Len Weber. He is the MLA that left the Conservative caucus, the PC caucus, yesterday. Here's what he had to say for his reasons why.
She's just really not a nice lady. And I can be honest with you there. I cannot work for an individual who treats people poorly, who treats our tax-paying dollars poorly. I will be sitting as an independent when I get back to the legislature.
All right, so first question to you is, one, would you welcome Mr. Weber into your caucus? Two, we're hearing as many as 25 people could be leaving, which would change the dynamic of the government from majority to minority. If you could address Mr. Weber in your caucus first.
Len has been a longtime friend of mine. We've often joked about whether or not he'd had enough on the other side. He clearly has had enough, but he's choosing to continue his career in public life at a different level. He's running for a federal nomination. I wish him well on that, but we have not talked about him joining our caucus. As for the others, the PC party is very good at closing ranks when one of their members are in trouble. They showed surprising lack of discipline over the last couple of weeks, but after our caucus meeting today, they emerged united, said that they're putting it behind them, and I don't anticipate that there's going to be any others breaking off. I think that the peace that they have in their caucus right now, though, is dependent upon whether or not the Premier actually changes her behavior. The problem the caucus has is that there are other cabinet ministers who are abusing taxpayer dollars too. This is not just a one-person problem, it's a culture problem. There's a culture of entitlement in the PC party, and I think they're going to pay for that in the next election.
Well, you mentioned the pattern of behavior. We've got about a minute left, and we were talking yesterday or the other day about this. $300,000 to hire extra letter writers in her office, a $1.2 billion boost to her office budget. You know, as Alberta's still, it's not really a balanced budget. Doesn't that point to a culture of entitlement as well as, you know, the rest of you do without, but I won't?
It's very true, and I think people are responding to that as well. Somebody quipped, and I have to agree with them. If she stopped abusing taxpayer dollars, if she stopped doing things like taking $45,000 trips, maybe she wouldn't get so many angry letters into her office that would require her to write more correspondence officers. I think the fact of the matter is, if she wants to set leadership from the top, she's got to hold the line on her own budget, got to hold the line on her own expenses and entitlements, and that will filter down through the bureaucracy. Until we see that kind of change, I'm not anticipating that this budget is going to be in balance anytime soon, because the leadership just isn't there.
All right, Danielle, thanks for your time, and we'll let you get back into the legislature.
You bet. Thank you.